Hey there, Patty Dominguez. Thanks for joining me on this episode number 82 of the Positioning to Profit podcast. Today is a special episode because one of the things that I talk about in my Positioning to Profit framework is around internal positioning. Now, if you are out in the market and exploring how to communicate the message, and let's say you're feeling frustrated, it's not connecting the dots, you're not gaining the level of success that you had hoped for, you're feeling overwhelmed, things just aren't clicking, it's feeling heavy, then this episode is for you. Today, as a guest, I am featuring Karen Turpin. She is a coach helping Starseeds and Lightworkers become aligned with their mission and purpose. And you can find her at KarenTurpin.com, KarenTurpin.com. And on this episode, we're going to be talking about that, is whether you're going through a personal stuck or a professional stuck or being in a state of stuck, if you will. We're going to be talking about what you can do to overcome that and how to really recognize when things aren't working well, when it's time to move into a different direction and how to do that. So I'm excited about this episode because I cannot even begin to express. I have had my fair share of stuckness, and I believe that this episode will really hopefully open your eyes to understanding how to get unstuck. And that is the theme for today. So with that, make sure to listen all the way through. And I hope you enjoy this show as much as I enjoyed being a part of it. All right, here we go. Hey there, I'm Patty Dominguez. You're about to discover what it means to position your brand and your business to stand out. This show explores the stories of small business owners just like you who are bringing their message out to the world and impacting their tribe. So if you want to take your business to a category of one status, then hang with me because this podcast shares everything you need to know about how to be more prolific with your brand so that you can have more profits. All right, Karen Turpin from KarenTurpin.com, straight out of Australia. Welcome to the Positioning to Profit podcast.
Thank you, Patty. It's so nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I know. I'm so excited. And the thing is, okay, in full transparency for all you beautiful people who are listening, it's so funny. This is our second attempt at recording a podcast because anytime, literally, that Karen and I get together, we can talk forever and ever and ever and ever. It's so fun. I love talking to you so much. But I want to share you with the world because I just think you're so brilliant at what you do. So Karen helps to release blocks and develop intuition to manifest the life you really want. And she can show you how. So that is a delicious, delicious brand promise as I talk about. And so what we want to talk about is how to uncover where you're stuck in life. Right? We have these goals as entrepreneurs, and somehow along the lines with as much as you want to invest in the different courses or gurus or coaches, etc., you still feel stuck, and there's a reason. But before we go off on that whole journey, Karen, welcome, and please tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Thank you, Patty. Well, I have been an energy healer for 25 years. Not just energy healing, all aspects of spirituality, really. I've taught psychic development and intuition development. I've taught mediumship, channeling, healing, crystal healing, all of that kind of thing. I also have a degree in holistic nutrition, which I decided not to pursue that avenue because, quite honestly, I don't always eat as perfectly as I should. So I didn't think I could really call myself a nutritionist if I wasn't walking the talk. So I kind of studied that, but pushed that aside. And then more recently, I've become known as a soul purpose and empowerment coach because really that's where my passion is. So going back 25 years when I used to do psychic reading for people, they would ask me, oh, what do you see in 6 months' time? What do you see in a year's time for me? And I would kind of look at that, and it's literally like 4 or 5 pathways would open up. And I would see so much more than just what is available in 6 months' time. Because I realized even then that we are the creators of our own reality. So all it takes really to shift onto a whole different track is a mindset shift or a different choice that we make in that moment. So they would say, where will I be in 6 months' time? And I could say, well, if you stay thinking and behaving exactly the same way that you currently are, you will be here. And I would describe where they would be. And then I would say, but if you were to change such and such, then you could be here, or then you could be there. So then I realized that I was seeing what was available to them when they open up to, a higher level of themselves or into their soul purpose as well. So that's how I got into loving helping people to see the bigger picture, really, of what's available for them.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know you and I have worked together as well. I did a beautiful session with you, so we could talk about that in a little bit. But in terms of when you say you're a soul purpose coach, can you expand on that a little bit? Because we know there's so many different healers out there and whatnot. And so when you talk about soul purpose, one of the things that I see as a coach myself is that people go in with the intention to do something, and do being the operative word, where they're doing. And I have personally been guilty of this as well. There's like this lack of perhaps self-trust, or where we think it's a force thing, because I was notorious for being like, I will literally outrun you on a treadmill and kill myself in the process if it's a matter of who can run the longest. And so that comes with burnout. So it's a very 3D energy. And so soul purpose, do you help coaches realign where they are in that thing that keeps them stuck, so that they can achieve a greater vision for their soul purpose?
Yes, yeah, it is about the vision of the soul purpose, but I completely get you, when you talk about burnout, because I've been there myself, and I found that my burnout was because there were so many things out of balance in my life. My marriage was struggling, and I felt that I didn't have any kind of support in my life. I'm on the opposite side of the planet from my family, actually, because I'm not born in Australia, but I live here. And so I kind of felt that I was all alone. I didn't have anyone to help me. And, I was also scared to step out and do anything different because I didn't have any support. And, there were things that were kind of moving within me because I was coming into a spiritual awakening at the time. And I was trying to suppress a lot of my inner knowing because it was going to rock the boat even more in my marriage. And, the whole thing of what's going to happen next was too scary. So I tried to suppress it all and not be who I truly am. And that's actually what led a lot to my burnout. So I had to get to the point where I just had to let things go and say, you know what, I have to be me. And what does that look like? So then I started to open up to this bigger vision of what could be possible for me. And then, for me at that time, because it was a spiritual awakening, I kind of, got the download or the insight into what I'm really here for, what I'm really good at helping people with. And then when I step into that and began to follow that, it's like as if I had energy again, because I'm on the right path, and everything that was holding me heavy and stuck and blocked, I was releasing bit by bit and moving on. And yes, I did get divorced. And, that's not the end of the world. And it was a little bit rocky for a while, because I think everybody that divorces goes through that rocky stage. But the interesting thing is that actually 10 years prior to that, I'd had this kind of inner knowing or premonition that my life was meant to be in two parts, that I would divorce in 10 years' time.
Really?
And I tried to kind of bargain with the universe and say, well, if I'm going to divorce in 10 years' time, can't we just do it now so that, I'm young and still pretty and I can find somebody else rather than leave it another 10 years? And the message was no, because there's learning here. There's growth still needed here. So sometimes things just have to run their course. And it was actually about 10 years to the month that I first wrote that in my journal, that my divorce came through. And then I kind of feel that I stepped into my mission and purpose, and, I released all of the past. And, it was a good divorce because I knew it was meant to be that way. It was amicable and it was lovely. And even though I was 10 years older, I do have a lovely partner. So being 10 years older didn't hold me back from finding someone. And he's a spiritual guy, and, that's all perfect. So sometimes, we go through these situations in life that feel hard, but I think if we learn to listen inside, we're always led to a better life experience. It's when we ignore that inner voice that things start to get stuck and heavy. That's my experience anyway.
I love that. So talk to me about your process, your system, your proprietary system that you take people through. When people come to you and say, listen, I mean, I know I've been super guilty of this. And actually the session that I had with you was extremely helpful because there was a business opportunity that came to me. Was it been now a year and a half or so? Maybe almost close to 2 years. And it was a company that came to me and said, oh, we have a proposition for you. We see that you're really good at XYZ. Have you ever thought about doing this as a business? So I reactively agreed to set up a business structure or an additional business opportunity. And what was really interesting is that out of that, I hired someone on my team who I absolutely adore. She's amazing. But I wasn't really happy with that part of the business. It felt very heavy. It felt very forced. I didn't have good energy with it. And so I was very much stuck. And then conversely, or like kind of fast forward, this is the one thing I've come to really realize is that if it's not light and right, then it's just not going to work. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. It's really as simple as that. And so I would say that that's one of the discoveries that I had around getting myself unstuck. And again, that the unstuck can happen at different levels, whether it's your partner, like you talked about, or that like in your life, a business, the way your business is set up. Any of these things are reasons that you'll feel like you're in the mud. And so fast forward, we had our session. And one of the things that I was so apprehensive about for a while was setting up a community. And I unofficially launched Prolific Cafe this fall. And I haven't done a big launch. I'm going to do a launch later toward the end of the year. But what's happened and what's transpired out of the session that we had, because I was going through some legal trouble with, unfortunately, it's all a gift, right? But there was a situation where I was it was really complicated and I made it heavier. But thankfully, it all kind of went away. It went away. And then the other side of it, which is really amazing, the other side of it is that business, I made the courageous decision to say, you know what, this no longer fulfills me. It never really did. And I don't have a fear of loss about it. And it was because I did that vision exercise with you that I thought was so powerful. Mm-hmm. And anyway, fast forward, I have simplified my business. I'm making more money. And more importantly, is that I'm happier. I'm happier because I see this beautiful community that is developing and I'm like, I love it. I get massive fulfillment out of it and just love the spirit in which everyone operates and just the community, the feeling of support. It's just awesome. So I just want to thank you for that because the exercise that you helped take me through was really, really impactful and it helped me gain supreme clarity on that. So can you talk a little bit about, and I know that's just one of the ways you help, but just the process that you help people who may be stuck themselves?
That's right. Your session was great because hearing about that legal situation that you had and how it just magically disappeared afterwards is in a sense, that's kind of a little bit of the essence of how I work because at the time you were really bogged down in that situation. And how I work in that session that you had is we moved you forward to have a look at what your life would look like in a couple of years' time. And, things were looking great. And then I said, and what happened about that legal situation? You went, oh, well, I just let go and decided not to fight. And, it was holding me down and all of this stuff. And the relief that you felt knowing that it had all gone away is it actually it's almost like it bends time, and this is how we work in the quantum field. So you saw that letting go. In fact, we got your future self to talk to you, and you said, well, what about that legal battle? And I think she said to you something like, well, it's not worth it, let it go.
She's like, it's a non-issue. I said non-issue. I remember saying that was a non-issue.
A non-issue. And whereas to the Patty that walked into the session with me, it was a big issue, right?
Mm-hmm. It was.
So having your future self say to you, you know what, don't even worry about that. It shifted everything. And in that moment, your consciousness shifted. And it's like we unblocked time. And to me, that's working in the quantum field. So what I found with people when we go and look at where they might be in 2 years' time, if they've removed the blocks that are holding them so heavy right now, is that they see what's available for them in 2 years. And because they know it's a real potential, it literally bends time. And so people that have thought, wow, in 2 years' time, I might be successful, knowing that they actually bring it forward. So like within, well, for you, it was days, wasn't it? But, other people, they'll say, wow, I've got this amazing business in 18 months' time. Suddenly it's here in 3, because it literally unlocks and opens that potential. It's really quite magical.
All right, we are about halfway through with this episode of the Positioning to Profit podcast, and I wanted to stop by with a share that I'm really excited about. Now, the fact that you're here means that you're probably looking for help with your marketing. I mean, let's face it, most of the marketing tips and the buzzwords that you hear out in the marketplace center around tactics that small business owners can employ. The problem with that is that there's a whole lot of tactics out there, but not a whole lot of strategy. And that's where I come in. I help coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs position themselves for profit. It won't cost you millions of dollars like the big brands, but it will cost you some time. And in this special book that I put together, you can find it over at positioningguide.com, I go into the essentials of positioning to profit, which is a guide that I put together for coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs struggling to stand out. So head on over to positioningguide.com and grab a copy for yourself. All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah, it was unbelievable. And then even more importantly, like just the vision around the path that I don't know, I'm very, very aligned and very fulfilled. I love it. I feel so much peace around where things are going, which is a really beautiful place to be. And just to think, one of the key phrases that I have found myself using where it has been significant is just let it go, right? Just let it go, like stop trying to control, right? And I know I've said this before. It's like we try to control that we're out of control. And it's just such a weird, forceful, crazy, constricted bottleneck energy. And so what if you could clear the path? So talk about your process, because I absolutely love the way you structure your process with your clients.
Yeah. So when you're bogged down in that, when you're stuck in it and you're overthinking and you can't let go, and when someone says to you, just let go, you really want to punch them, don't you? Because it's like, I'm trying to let go, but I can't.
Yeah.
And so first of all, I discuss with them how they've got to where they are and what the real issue is. What is it that's keeping them stuck? And so for my example that I gave earlier, I had this, like chronic fatigue. I was exhausted and I didn't know what the pieces were. And part of that, when I dug down into it, was that I wasn't being my fullest expression. I wasn't speaking my truth. I was trying to control everything so that everything would appear to work on the surface. And so that's the same as, someone could have said to me then, well, just let go, Karen, it will be fine. But I couldn't see. I eventually got to that. But at the time, I couldn't see the pieces of where I was blocked and stuck. Mm-hmm. So I help my clients to pick out those pieces, because it could be that they have beautiful marriages, but, they don't want to step out in a career direction because they kind of don't know if it will really work. So in the visioning process, I take them in a kind of, I'm trained as a hypnotherapist as well. So I use hypnotherapy and meditation. It's a kind of hypno-meditation technique that I developed and I take them into this state of hypnosis, and we access the subconscious mind, which is really soul. And so then we start to project forward at what might be available for them. In some people it's 2 years, some people it's 5 years, depending. And so when they begin to see that this business idea or, thought of traveling or whatever it might be, when they've had this idea for a little while and they keep thinking, oh, I don't know if that's possible. Could it be possible? It might feel like a dream, but we take them forward and have a look. And when they see, oh my goodness, I could actually do this. This is possible. And it's like as if they step into themselves in a future timeline and they feel it and they know it. You would have experienced that feeling of knowing, oh my goodness, this is me and it's really happening. So they actually feel it as a real possibility, not just a kind of pie in the sky thing. So it's an all over body feeling. You know what you felt like in some of your visions that you saw, and you go, wow, I'm actually doing this. I'm really doing it. So then when we come back out of that process, it's shifted within them and they know it's possible. And it's not like a dream of, seeing themselves on stage or something. They were the woman or man standing there on the stage, actually experiencing, looking out at their audience, knowing that all those people have come to listen to them. It becomes very, very real. Then, once they've got that vision and they kind of know where they're headed for, then we talk about what steps they need to take to become the type of person that could stand on that stage. Because they might come out and say, God, I can't believe that, because I hate speaking in public. And yet there I was standing on the stage. So then I look at the pieces of what needs to change within them so that they could actually be that person and step into that life. And then there's, I do that either through coaching, or sometimes we use hypnosis to develop the parts of themselves that they need so that they literally become that successful person that they saw.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And it's so impactful because, as you can see, and we were talking right before I hit the record button, is that I know from a business coaching perspective, you can have the best products, the best tools, the best programs, courses, etc. And you could be going down the path and saying, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Why is this so hard? And it's because you don't have that state, that subconscious state of being that you have to have. It's almost like the perfect mix in parallel, where you're driving ahead on the right path. And when you have that parallel path, it's like a clear path. It's just incredible how that happens. So the point here is that if you're stuck, there's a reason why you're stuck. And in the absence of understanding the stuck, and then a redirection of sorts, right? A redirection, a paving of sorts, you're going to continue to be stuck. And that's the truth.
That's it.
Right? Or am I oversimplifying it? Because that's what I see now, kind of looking back in hindsight.
I think the whole thing is very, very simple. And this is one of my things with how I blend energy work and mindset and spirituality, how I blend all of that together. Because having taught psychic development and all that spiritual stuff for many years, I see that people make that really, really complicated. And then we make the mindset work really, really complicated. What I like to do is bring all of it together, because everything is energy, and simplify that. Because, becoming the best version of yourself requires you to change. You can't expect to change if you're not willing to change. So changing your mindset by realizing that there's so much more to you than you ever thought. I'm very good at inspiring people. And I do that through energy. So as I'm working with someone, I'm literally shifting their energy into a higher vibration. And that it's from that level that they need to look at where they could go. What is their potential? When we're really heavy and stuck and kind of, we would call that in 3D, certainly in spiritual areas, that's what we call it. When you're stuck and heavy and it's all in your head and round and round and round in your mental mind, you can't see a way out. So when I talk with people, because I work energetically with them, I literally kind of open them up, shift their vibration into a higher space, and then they also begin to see what's possible for them. It's literally like standing on the ground looking around versus going up 2 or 3 floors and looking from a higher perspective at what's possible. And I do that because I work energetically with people and I shift their consciousness as I work with them. So once they've got that higher vision, then they go, that's what I want. And it's kind of like I can energetically feel them move up to it. The key then is to be able to hold themselves at that higher level.
That's it.
Because if you then go back into the humdrum of your daily life and let it all go, well, you won't have affected a change. So I like to work with people in my groups and classes. I have a membership where we continue to work. So every week we have a class, and it helps people to hold that higher level of vibration within themselves. That they stay high and then just get higher and higher. They don't have, the dips and troughs. And even if they do kind of go down in the dumps sometimes, because that's life, it's not long again before they've shifted their perspective again and they're lifting up again. So it's literally the trajectory is up rather than up and down and up and down. And nobody wants to be down for very long. It doesn't feel good.
And
so,
well, I was going to say, and that's the magic of having a membership, isn't it? Because you can stay in the game. Gosh, who was I? I had an exploratory call with somebody about, joining the membership, and she was like, okay, well, I'm kind of taking a course on that already. I'm like, yeah, but when you take a course, it's that point in time. And so what happens is, because I know so much of this happens, it's called courseritis, where you buy the next course thinking that's your solution. And what it is not the learning, but it's applied learning. And when you have a membership, it's applied learning, like in motion. Like you're applying it, you're working through it, you're checking in, you have your community that's keeping you accountable. And I know you love your community too. And so this is such a great testament to the power of community, is that you have your members who are checking in because they want to stay in 5D, right? They don't want to be in 3D and in the mud. They want to see above it and maintain that vibration. And so it's that consistency that it provides, which is really powerful, mixed with the community support.
Exactly. And it's interesting because recently, earlier this year, somebody asked me to do an intuition development class, which I hadn't taught, quite honestly, for a few years. And I said, yeah, we can do that. So I got the group together and we did the intuition development classes online, of course. Most of my clients are all around the world, so online is great. And then, of course, this year things are different. So everybody's got used to being online. That makes it even more available to people. So I did the class and it was an 8-week class. And at the end, they're like, oh no, I don't want this to end. I don't want to leave this. And I actually loved teaching the class because I used to teach meditation classes regularly and I hadn't done that for a few years. And so coming together with this class, I remembered how much I love to teach and how I love that group energy because it lifts everyone. Everyone benefits. So then they said, oh, we don't want this to end. And I'm like, let's do a membership so that we don't have to end.
Yeah, that's
so
perfect.
They've all come into there. And they came through the intuition development. Some of those people I've known for years, actually, from, working with them one-on-one or other classes. So they've all come into the membership. And as well, I have an online course called Abundance Bootcamp. And I have to say, originally, I used to do weekly coaching with the Abundance Bootcamp. So that kept us in that, kind of community space. But again, it was a course and it ended at the end of that 6 weeks. It's like, oh, well, that all falls flat, doesn't it? So, but the Abundance Bootcamp really is my foundational teachings in terms of using the mind or the mindset, but understanding the power of your own mind. And then I talk in there about energy and poverty consciousness, money consciousness, and, the power to be abundant. And then I go into that course also about quantum because that's, how we get those magical results. So that's a really great foundation. And so if anybody were to buy that online course, the next natural step would be to come into the membership, because that's where we all get, that group energy and uplifted. And then people could continue to put into practice what they've learned in the course. So there's a few ways that people could find themselves working with me weekly. Mm-hmm. Just like in the old days, it used to be a meditation class, and they never wanted those to end either.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it great? So, yeah, how we've migrated over. And then the best part about it is, like, when you even think about the fact that you just said you have clients from all over the world, like we do too, in the membership, like you're from Australia, and we have, Helen and Miyako from Japan, and other people from Australia and US and London. And it's just the best thing ever. I'm like, this is amazing. So
it's the best.
It's been so interesting that it's been such a crazy year, but through this crazy, the human spirit is such that we know how to pivot. We know we're so resilient innately. And I think when we have that community support, it's just even better, right? Like, even though we don't have the touch, which I'm dying to give people hugs again, because I'm a hugger, you know what I mean? We still have the camaraderie of community. And that's such a testament for it.
I think in terms of this time that we are on the planet, I mean, lots of people have said, there's an awakening happening on the planet. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited about that, because I've been waiting for this for a long time. And we're coming into a time on the planet where it's meant to be unity. Mm-hmm. It's meant to be unity consciousness. And if a community is not that, unity, coming together in unity, well, there it is. And I think that's why we're so many of us are wanting to create that community, because it's the time in consciousness, even if we don't realize that that's what we're tapping into, it's kind of coming through anyway.
Karen, that's such a beautiful way to express that. All right. For the whole world who wants to engage with you, how can they connect with you? What's the best way?
Well, I have my website, of course, KarenTurpin.com. I'm on Facebook. I have a page called Karen Turpin. Keep it simple, right? Mm-hmm. Karen Turpin. On Instagram, I'm Karen Turpin Spiritual Coach. Mm-hmm. I'm not there a great deal, but I promise that I will be there very soon.
Well, you're going to be, because we're going to be promoting this podcast to the masses. So that way you can engage with people that way. But so your social media handles and website are going to be on the show notes page. And then Karen has a Karen Turpin, TURPIN.com. She has, do you have emotional pain from past events that keep you stuck and blocked? Get my Healing the Past meditation. So she has that directly on her site that you can get instant access to now just by going to KarenTurpin.com. Karen, my sweet friend, I could talk to you forever. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I've loved it. And I love talking to you.
Me too. I know. It's dangerous. And if we had a cocktail, I'd be even more dangerous. That's better one. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for checking out the Positioning to Profit podcast. If you haven't already done so, please make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new episodes. And also, it would mean the world to me if you would take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast player. It really helps to get the word out about the podcast and, of course, the featured guests. And lastly, please make sure to connect with me on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm on all of them. And use hashtag positioning to profit so that I can search you out and connect that way too. All right. Thanks so much. See you next time.